That night, at the beginning of the journey, he just watched her descend against the shining moon. She had come to repay him. The man was being chased by a bear. He realized he shouldn't have been so greedy and climbed far into the mountains. The man stumbled. The guy stopped the animal. The protagonist asked if he was okay. The man shouted in horror that the creature was behind him. The guy felled the animal, which looked cool from the outside. The stranger was glad he was here. He thought that the protagonist was a great adventurer. The guy replied that he was not at all. He thought so and thought that the monster was injured. The man said that luckily, thanks to him, he only got away with a scratch. Suddenly he was surprised. The guy realized that he had internal injuries, broken ribs in his lungs, so he would easily go into a rage. The stranger didn't realize what he was doing. He's a servant of the monster lord, the enemy of all mankind. The protagonist confirmed that he was indeed a monster, but he was now his patient. The guy made a sword using magic. He used it to find something inside the monster. The protagonist apologized if he was rude to him. It's probably easier to leave the rest to self-repair. The man still thought he was going to kill him. When asked if he was alright, the monster answered with silence. The guy understood what was wrong, unlike the stranger. He asked if he had his balls. The man hesitantly replied that not at all. The guy knew it. This is a rare bear with balls. He was angry at him for taking his cubs. The man assumed that's why he came after him, even though he was wounded. This the protagonist did not know. The stranger replied that the guy had already guessed that he had stolen his eggs, after all. The protagonist explained that they had feelings too. If you listen carefully, you can hear the quiet voice of the animals. He picked up the stranger. He needs to go around the area now, so he will give him a lift to the base. The man didn't realize who he was, with such strength, healing arts and understanding of monsters. The guy introduced himself as Zeke Veterinari, a veterinarian. Zeke took the vaccine for healing. He injected it into the body of a cow who instantly got better. This amazed the owner and his daughter. He thanked him and added that he was now indebted to him. The veterinarian replied modestly to this. The girl inquired what the light over the lad was. The man explained that it was his skill, so he is a very special person. She asked if she would have one of those, but her father said she couldn't do what he does. Zeke replied that it didn't matter if she had a skill or not. What matters is her desire to help. The man asked not to be modest. Zeke is a wonderful professional, perhaps even surpassing his father. The boy was sure that he was nowhere near him. His father was much better, but he was already dead. The girl was very sorry. Zeke explained that it was okay, it was a long time ago. The veterinarian turned to the man. Since they had rescued the cow, he was now concerned about something else entirely. The owner asked what exactly. As it turns out, the stable is poorly ventilated and that big load is cutting off the air supply, so they need to clean the place more often. And there's that Taurus in the far corner. Compared to his last visit, he's all hunched over and gaunt. Guy reckons he should be moved elsewhere and feed. The protagonist inquired about its distribution. He thinks they added too much concentrate. The man thought so too. They're all slow, breathing heavily, clearly overweight. They each have their own orders from above. He's sure they want the animals to get fatter. But, Zeke thought, the owner doesn't want to put the family in trouble. The man realized that he was absolutely right. He had received his orders in the last month and was running out of time to fulfill them. The vet remarked that it was certainly in their spirit. Suddenly he received a phone call. A disgruntled voice asked what he was stuck there for. The protagonist explained to him that he was on an eastern ranch doing a routine checkup. The minister was indignant, for it is a simple cattle inspection. It takes 30 minutes. Zeke agreed with that, but it takes too much effort. The man thought he was making excuses all the time. What's the point of wasting time on them? They're going to score meat anyway. The bloke remained silent. He was rudely ordered to come back soon anyway. Zeke replied that he would be there soon. The girl noticed that he seemed to be having a very hard time working. It appeared that he was used to this sort of thing by now. The man thought it was terrible. They all know how hard the vet works, but these rich and aristocrats don't seem to care, as long as they do a little work. Zeke thought, no wonder they are so frivolous about animals. The rancher replied that under the new king, livestock farming in the country was in decline and they only had one veterinarian left. They were lucky to have him, but frankly, he wished Zeke would leave and take his talents elsewhere. Being stuck here was a waste of time. The protagonist thought to himself that he couldn't just leave them all behind. The man asked to think of himself, let him say so. Zeke is glad to hear it. Now that the minister is furious, he'd better get out of here. He'll be back. The guy said to take care of everyone. The man asked to take care of himself. Zeke walked over to Kai-chan, on which he will go home. She went into a rage. The vet saw, she heard his call, and will consider it. Zeke thought of leaving the country and going for a better prospect. But he can't leave people like them. Well, when you think of it that way, it's not so bad to live here. Kai-chan noticed something in the distance and rushed over there. The guy asked Kai-chan to stop. The capital is in the wrong direction. Zeke saw the creature and assumed it was a dog. She was wounded. He He thanked her for paying attention. She had cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. He apologized, but it would sting a little. The vet took a medical examination. There are toxins in the blood. He realized it had been attacked by ogres. The creature was whimpering. Zeke was sure she would be alright. He's a doctor. The guy did the dosing. He'll just give her a shot and she'll feel better right away. The vet asked her not to move. He noticed that she had well-groomed, soft fur. She doesn't look wild, but how did she end up in a place like this? Kai-chan saw something wrong. In front of them stood huge monsters that the guy realized were after her. He asked why they were chasing her. It's not like they're even going to eat her. Zeke suggested that they stop. They didn't listen to him. The protagonist struck out at them. He didn't want to hurt them if possible. The monsters were still just as angry. Zeke thought, no. Then he used paralysis. Then the dream. The monsters fell to the ground. 2 medical skills, but how useful for situations like this. Now the puppy is safe. The creature thanked him and disappeared. Zeke wondered if it was missing. It was a monster, wasn't it? It seemed to be saying something. The vet assumed she was better now, so the details weren't important. He packed up to go home with Kai-chan. The king announced that he had fired Zeke. The guy was shocked. He inquired as to the reason. According to the ruler, the minister reported to him that Zeke had incurred enormous expenses far in excess of needs. Cattle are nothing more than animals that are bred, killed and eaten. He who spends so much money on the medical care of such animals does only harm, no good. He justifies himself with health and ecology. If they die, a few cubs are enough. The minister believed that if they got rid of him they would cut down on unnecessary spending. They would be able to invest in the future of the kingdom. The man thought that was fine. The king was in agreement with him. He asked if he had anything to say. The boy thought, if so, he humbly apologizes. Zeke explained that firstly, animal husbandry is not as simple as the minister says. Without proper management, productivity will not be stable or even come to naught because of the spread of disease. Also, the protagonist is also responsible for managing the monster units used by the national army. Special methods are needed to suppress the inherent ferocity of the Hexenbeists, without which the country will suffer loss of life and irreparable material damage. The minister replied that Zeke might not be aware of it, but a useful magical tool had recently been invented. The boy was not aware of it. It was called a training tool. Just by wearing it, one could make pets and magical beasts obey at will. In short, as long as they have it, Zeke is useless. The guy was indignant. After all, they were treating animals as objects by using such an item. If they continue to trample on their feelings and dignity, one day disaster will not be avoided. The minister thought he was delirious. The king thought it was nonsense. Zeke deserves to be punished for all the damage he has done to the country and his many false claims of competence. But he recognizes his work, so he will be treated with the leniency the guy deserves. He orders him deported. Zeke sat on the bank of the reservoir, sighing. He thought he had done his best to replace his father. But the world went crazy when a new king came to the throne. Kai-chan tried to comfort him. The main character concluded that animals are not things to be thrown away. They are creatures with feelings and hearts that cheer up their friends in times of need. Kai-chan playfully pushed him into the water. Zeke replied that victory was hers. Suddenly the boy noticed something. A girl appeared in front of him. Her appearance seemed beautiful to him. She leaned towards him saying that she missed him and owed him a debt of gratitude. Her name is Tiffany. She asked to be called T. Zeke offered to go to his house. He introduced himself. The girl liked his name. The guy assumed she was the puppy he had rescued. It turned out to be just that. Those ears and that tail. She looks like a monster, but he was rescuing a regular puppy, not a girl like her. T replied that not at all. She had turned into a puppy. Now he believed her. Zeke asked if she was a monster. He had never heard of such a species that could turn into humans. She was indignant and said she wasn't a monster at all. T asked if the guy knew about monster gods. As it turned out, he didn't. She explained that they are monsters that have existed since ancient times and are equal to gods. And the one who rules them is called the Divine Beast King. And she is the daughter of the Divine Beast King. T came to invite him. Zeke was surprised. She explained that Narogma is a land of water, greenery and beasts ruled by the Divine Beast King. Their land needs his loving hand, which he extended to an unknown monster they found along the way. The protagonist confesses that he can't do much, but if she asks for help, he will give it. He had just been deported, so her offer was just in time. That made her happy. Zeke packed for Narogma. T touched his hand with her paw. He noticed that his body was glowing. The girl said the treaty was done. He who made a pact with the Divine Beast would unleash his hidden power and gain even more power. If there are any questions, the guy can ask. Zeke understood her. He replied that it was time to pack up then. T settled down on his bed and said goodnight, which angered the protagonist. She offered to sleep with him. The offer didn't really appeal to the guy. He decided to spend the night with Kai Cheng. The veterinarian came to the rancher's house to say goodbye. Zeke confessed that he would miss them, but he couldn't stay in this country any longer. The man wasn't happy with the supreme power. They would be fine, just let Zeke take care of himself. The boy thanked him. Kai Chan and Tiffany were arguing about something. The host remarked that he had good companions, so there was no need to worry. The protagonist apologized for the noise. Zeke decided to move out. They were arguing about something that concerned him. He asked if T had said something now. The girl replied that it was nothing, but he heard another voice. The boy paid no attention to it and got ready to go. He reckoned that even with Kai Chan's legs, the journey would take 5 days. Quite a long journey. The girl offered to make the journey fun. Something suddenly made Kai Chan angry. The protagonist didn't understand what was wrong with her or why she was in a bad mood. They noticed a silhouette in the distance. Zeke thought it was a person. T replied that it was a harpy, a ferocious rank monster. How did it get here? The girl was sure they had to go round it. The veterinarian wasn't going to do that. He stopped Kai Chan in front of her. Recently, there have been a lot of injured monsters. Kai asked him to be careful. The guy realized she was hurt and wanted to examine her. She was able to dodge. The harpy decided to attack him. Zeke put a dream on her. He was confident that everything would be fine. Tiffany wondered why he was treating her at all. The guy replied that he was a doctor. Besides, the monsters only went crazy because of the demon lord's curse. It's not their fault. The girl hugged him. This was the Zeke she had always admired. If it's like this, then this harpy will be blown away. The protagonist asked her not to say anything stupid. I mean, he said that monsters have a curse on them. They are not easy to tame. But T asked if it wasn't true that he took care of them in the kingdom after all. The guy explained that it was a long process. It took a long time to break the curse. The harpy swooped down on Zeke and hugged him with words that she loved him. He clearly wasn't expecting that. Tai was surprised that he had managed to deal with a high-ranking monster, but he didn't even remember having such strength. She didn't think that his strength could develop so much due to the contract. He remembered that the contract had been made last night. The harpy kept going on about how she loved him. Zeke concluded that she was talking, too. Tai explained that his abilities had developed to the point where he could understand their language. The boy realized that it was all part of the deal. Tiffany replied that was right, and it was all due to his talents. He didn't think so. The girls sandwiched him between them and said they loved him. This did not suit Kai Chan. She called Zeke a fool. According to Kai Chan, she is so in love with him but he doesn't even notice her. The guy asked her to stop, a misunderstanding. Suddenly he realized what she was saying. That's right, she is after all a monster too. With tears, Kai Chan said he lied to her. Just jumping into someone's breasts like that. He likes mammals so much. Tai realized that he liked breasts and decided to press down harder. He asked her not to make it harder. This was getting more and more frustrating for Kai Cheng. Zeke tried to explain to her that she had it all wrong. He still long ago, even now, he thinks she is the best. This pleased Kai Chan. The protagonist never thought the day would come when he could talk to her like that. Tiffany noticed that they had already arrived. Zeke asked not to be silly. They still had a few days to go, but in front of him was the entrance to Narogma, the Makuni Gate. That's what she was talking about. On quick feet, they made it in time. The villagers saw the divine beast and realized that Lady Tai had returned. The locals greeted her. Zeke had had doubts before, but now, she really is a princess. The girl reported a great harvest in the outside world. She brought a human doctor. The boy introduced himself. The inhabitants realized that this was the benefactor the divine beast had spoken of. They had never seen a human before, but he's a human, right, and he has a monster with him. Zeke was startled, thinking he had said the wrong thing. Tiffany explained that it was okay, they were just a little confused, not used to people. The protagonist had read that once upon a time the beastmen were persecuted by humans and ended up in the deep forest. Therefore, he is not surprised by their reaction. Miss Tiffany was called. The princess apologized in advance for this reaction. Zeke thought it was a natural reaction to an outsider. Miss T was approached by. The girl had some delicious apples. She offered to give her one. The princess did not refuse the offer. Zeke found it very tasty. The girl realized that he wanted one too. They have plenty. Their shop is that way. Tiffany ran with her. The boy asked them not to run so fast. They were almost run over by a horse-drawn wagon. Kai Chan caught the girl. The protagonist put the horse to sleep. He managed to pick up tea. The girl was fine and thanked him. The guy saw the girl was fine too. Guards gathered around. The princess replied that she was fine. The guard asked why the man was trying to run over the divine beast. He ordered him to be taken to the castle. He and his horse must be prepared to suffer capital punishment. Zeke stopped them. The veterinarian examined the horse and noticed that its hoof was sprained and inflamed. The protagonist asked if his owner regularly trimmed his hooves. Walking on cobblestones in this condition is like stepping barefoot on shards of glass. The man apologized. Zeke decided to create something. The guy gave him first aid. He'll be fine all the way home, so the owner should just take care of his horse properly. He handed him the necessary item. The man promised to be careful. It wasn't intentional anyway, so Zeke asked to change from anger to mercy. Tiffany is sure he won't let that happen again. The guard listened to them. The protagonist thought the girl shouldn't have jumped out so suddenly. She apologized. The villagers thanked Zeke. It's just as Mrs. T said. He got her back on her feet. The man could not express his gratitude to him for saving his horse and him. The guard admitted that he seemed to be in a state of shock as well, and he thanked him for resolving the situation. The girl was also grateful. Tiffany is glad to hear that they all approve of Zeke. She hopes they get to know each other better and become friends. This did not please Kai-chan. She declared that Zeke was only hers. The princess called him out. He is an important guest, so she asked the maids to treat him politely. T left one of the guest rooms empty so he could feel free to stay, and added that they would see each other later. He and Kai-chan were surprised. The maid led them to their room. If they needed anything, they could ask her. Zeke was shocked that T was really a princess. He thought it was exciting. The events took him by surprise. Suddenly things become very serious. And if T approves of him, what's the opinion of the rest of her family? He's terrible at everything except medicine. Kai-chan objected. According to her, Zeke is experienced, caring, and cool. He will be welcomed everywhere with joy. She doesn't like that doggy, but she also discerned what she sees. Zeke was glad that she felt that way. He is happy that he was able to talk to her. The boy thought, it's called interracial friendship. He decided to say again. Zeke is glad he has her. She wondered about race. Suddenly they heard someone calling for help. The boy used detection. 2 rooms later, 2 men climbed through a window with a large bag. He and Kai-chan went there. They were kidnappers who decided to steal the girl. The kidnappers didn't realize who he was. They didn't expect it since they were using the stealth skill. This surprised Zeke. He detected them by tracking them. They realized that he had strong ranger skills. The guy replied that it was a medical skill. The kidnappers guessed that this was their guest with the monster. He turned to the guys saying that if they wanted to ask a girl out, they should think of something less extreme. They would only scare them off that way. One of them pounced on him. The protagonist gave him paralysis. The other kidnapper recognized battle magic. The guy wanted to reply but changed his mind. In any case, he should not say a word, just let the girl go. The rest will be talked about later. The kidnapper was about to jump out of the window with her. He was stopped by Kai-chan. Zeke caught the girl. She wasn't hurt. He decided to approach the kidnapper. The boy wanted to see the look on his face. He, however, laughed. The kidnapper disappeared and the boys managed to dodge his magic. Zeke recognized the magic of transference. This is a high skill with a limited number of users. It's the kind of thing a petty thief can't use. He wondered what it all meant. The girl reminded him that she couldn't speak. The guy apologized as he had forgotten and asked if she was okay. The girl thanked Zeke. He was surprised that she knew his name. As it turned out, she was his employer. The girl explained that she was the divine queen of beasts and again said thank you for saving her life. The queen announced that Mr. Zeke had been accepted. She introduced herself as the divine queen of beasts, Sophia. Tiffany said hello. The boy also introduced himself. He apologized for his rudeness last night. The queen asked him not to speak so formally. Tiffany agreed to this. They are almost friends after all. Sophia replied that they are not that. The queen complimented that they had much to discuss, but would be brief this time. She wanted Zeke to serve her country as the chief physician of the court. The lad obeyed the order. Suddenly he realized that he would become the chief physician of the court. Zeke thought to himself that this is the head of the medical department. After all, he had just arrived at their place. A voice was heard from behind him asking Master Zoroa to wait. His Majesty is in audience. The master did enter and apologized for interrupting. He caught a glimpse of a guy's hand. When asked who it was, Tai replied that he was Master Zoroa, the greatest of the doctors. Zeke realized that he was the chief physician. Zoroa looked at the protagonist with anger. The queen asked what he wanted. The master addressed her saying that as the current doctor of the court, he could not ignore this situation. Even if this is the princess's opinion, giving an important post to a stranger who has just arrived is simply insane. The servant thought it was rude. The queen replied that it was fine. His words are not without meaning, so they will consider Zeke for the position of his assistant. Zoroa was not sure that this man was capable of being an assistant. He didn't think that such an ugly bald man could hold such an important position no matter who supported him. In fact, he might even be a spy from another country, and who knows when he would be caught red-handed. Zeke realized that he was really humiliating him. The guy paid attention to his physique, his center of gravity. The protagonist asked permission to look at his right arm. Zoroa didn't understand why he had to show it. Zeke explained that he had a twitchy movement. The guy assumed he was hurt and would like to look at it. Sareta refused. He's the chief physician of the court. He can take care of such a cut himself. Zeke realized that it was definitely a cut. The same cut as the one he inflicted on the bandit last night with that scalpel. The guards did not understand which bandits the gentleman was talking about. He has seen, they do not know. As it turned out, the queen had kept it quiet so as not to cause confusion. She explained that there was a bandit in her bedroom last night. She was in danger, but Zeke saved her. The guards were shocked. They realized that Master Zero was that bandit. He, on the other hand, called it nonsense. How could it be? A similar scar like that scoundrel's proves nothing. That's why Zeke wanted to know. He asked permission to take some of his blood. Maybe the blood on the scalpel would match his blood. The guards were surprised that it was possible. Zero was frightened. The queen didn't want him to resist. The master wanted to escape, but Zeke put him in paralysis. He thought formalities are unnecessary when it comes to bad guys. Sophia and Tiffany were glad he had saved her again. The princess was proud of Zeke. He came to the castle and immediately exposed the bad guys and beat them up. The boy asked to get off his back and apologized to the queen. She grudgingly replied that it was nothing. Zeke saw the court doctors of the whole country. There are so many of them. The girl behind him explained that they were responsible for the medical care of the people as well as the livestock. Zeke was surprised, for he worked alone. The girl complimented that Mr. Zeke was appointed to supervise them. She asked to introduce herself. The lad introduced himself, Zeke Vetelinari, the new head doctor of the yard. The protagonist knew, everything is so sudden. Some of them might not like him being an outsider, but he would do his best to fit in. If they have any problems, he asked them to let him know, and he'll do his best to help. Zeke found that greeting pathetic. He should have thought of something smarter. No, he didn't have time for that yesterday. Suddenly he was surprised. Everyone greeted him well. He hadn't expected everyone to be so welcoming. It turned out they had already heard about his exploits, how he saved the princess and the divine queen of the beasts. Everyone knows what happened in the city, and his predecessor was the same. The boy realized that he was not always evil. The girl asked me not to worry about anything. They would do their best to support him. Zeke was already thinking about where they would start when suddenly someone burst into the room saying they were in trouble. Everyone didn't understand what had happened. They were asked to look over there. They are coming in droves. A whole pack of demonic beings. Everyone was surprised that there were so many dragons. Zeke realized who it was. The dragons flew up to them, calling him brother. The boy asked why the boys were here. They heard he was gone, so they were looking for him and didn't want to work without their brother. Zeke was surprised that they could talk. So it's a developed ability of his. He's still getting used to it. The girl was frightened by these dragons. The protagonist explained that he was taking care of them in his homeland. If they don't mind, he would like to take them under his wing. They are excellent flying dragons for riding supreme, and he is sure they will be useful for air travel. The girl was delighted by this suggestion. They agreed. Meanwhile, the former country of Zika. The king laughed contentedly. He asked how he liked his new crown and was it not worthy of his majesty. The minister replied that with such splendor let the king's greatness be known in every corner of the earth. The ruler thought it was much more profitable than spending money on animals. He was sure when people saw it, they would be delighted. The king remarked that it was so late and they should get going. The man asked if the flying dragon was ready. A servant was trying to convey something important to them. He explained that there was no flying dragon and this shocked the king. As it turned out, since the morning, they had been looking for them everywhere. Both were frightened as they could not go to the meeting if there was no flying dragon. They have no choice but to take horses and a carriage. The horse hit the king in the face. The servant apologized to the lord. The other horses are the same. As soon as Zeke left, they don't feed and brush them at all. The horse couldn't work like that. In such a condition, not only could they not be harnessed into a carriage, but they could not be saddled. The king did not know what to do with them. The minister turned to King Rogel. In that case, they have no choice but to just take the carriage. The fact that it would be horse-drawn angered the king. He thought that they wanted him as a servant to run alongside. The minister asked not to worry and promised to think of something. The king realized that this was not the case. He didn't care about anything. They must go. Now they would think of something. Rogel apologized for being late. Those present noticed that the king from Getanuga was late. He explained that he had a problem. They had already discussed most of the agenda. Did he have anything to say? He need not worry, they will write about him at the end of the minutes. That is, that King Rogel graciously reports ready for duty. They left, the presence of a dignitary at a meeting between kings. They thought he felt like a big man. The kings continued to laugh. Rogel was sure that it was all because of Zeke. In front of Zeke and Kai-chan was their house. Sophia had provided them with an empty house. It looked pretty big so they would fit in it. Kai-chan was happy. It turned out that the guy had contacted Mint. This surprised Kai-chan. He wrote her a letter and sent her an owl. No matter how much she hates him, she's his sister, and should at least know what's wrong with him. Zeke decided to start by cleaning. She has a feeling they're in trouble. Mint got a letter from her brother. She was going to visit him soon. The king was enraged. He thought being humiliated like this was a total loss of face, and all because of that damn Zeke. The minister asked him to calm down. The ruler thought Haman was also to blame for not making a good offer. He was approached. It turned out that Mrs. Mint was waiting to meet him. The ruler did not know who it was. The minister replied that it was the one he had told him about, the genius they had hired as the court magician, Mint Vetelinari. King Rogale remembered that it was the same girl. According to the minister, she is only 15 years old and already graduated from the Academy of Magic with honors, a talent that appears once in a century, a truly genius magician. He thought, wondering why such an outstanding person would apply for an open competition. The king was sure it was because of his popularity. The minister agreed with him. Now other countries will surely pay attention to their country. The girl entered the room. The ruler thought she had come to honor him even before she officially got the position. He likes that sort of thing. Mint replied that he would have to do it himself. She said goodbye. Haman asked to wait and asked what she meant. He touched her shoulder and his hand immediately turned ice cold. The king was afraid for him. Mint had said not to dare touch her. The only one allowed to do such a thing is her brother. That she had a brother surprised Rogale. She replied that he was a Vetelinari whom he had banished from the country. It was Zeke who took care of the animals. The ruler realized that she was his sister. The girl merely wanted to work in the same place as her brother. If he wasn't here, there was nothing for her to do. She wished her luck. The king asked her to wait. For the sake of their country's prestige, they need her help. Mint didn't know what he meant and disappeared. The man was angry with their family, especially Zeke. The girl would see her brother soon. She saw a barrier in front of her. The guards noticed her and thought she was human. They ordered her to stand and asked who she was. Mint said to let her pass. They did not understand what she meant. The girl said to let her pass. She wanted to see her brother. The guards were afraid of her magic. Mint was about to use it when suddenly someone stopped her. It was her brother, whom they hadn't seen in a long time. She missed him so much. The guy asked what she was doing here, and didn't she have studies. It turned out that Mint had graduated from high school. The protagonist concluded that she would have a job, but she had just quit her job as a court magician. This shocked Zeke. He didn't understand why she did it. He had gone all this way to get her a job at a prestigious place. Mint explained that she only wanted him. Guy didn't expect her character to change. She used to treat him with contempt. He noticed the blush. Kai-chan explained that her character changed when she became old enough. Before that, there was simple childlike innocence. Her words embarrassed the girl. Zeke thought she hated him. Mint apologized for not telling him sooner, but when he left the country, she realized that if she wasn't honest, she might be misunderstood for the rest of her life. The girl confessed that from now and forever she loved her brother. The boy replied that he loved her too. Mint was glad that they loved each other. Kai-chan addressed her saying that Zeke was in love with her. Mint replied that if Miss Lizard had not heard, Zeke was in love with her. In any case, the protagonist offered to go home. He apologized for the disturbance. The guard replied that it was okay if it was his sister. The guy offered Mint to drop by his place, which the girl didn't refuse. She would be a guest in this country. Everyone was surprised. Zeke was glad that Lady Sophia agreed. She didn't have to live in his house. The girl replied that brother and sister lived under the same roof and there was nothing strange about it. But Zeke thought she was an independent person now. Mint leaned against him saying that she had not inhaled his scent for a long time and complimented that she loved him. The protagonist surmised that she still needed him. Suddenly, the magic light went out. Zeke thought the magic had run out, but the girl was sure that apparently it hadn't. The boy assumed that these guys weren't monsters. Mint thought it was a shadow puppet skill. They aren't affected by physical attack, sleep, paralysis. Zeke realized that he needed to defeat the mage. It turned out to be exactly that. The protagonist thwarted him. His sister admired him. The mage hadn't expected this. His shadow puppet was not affected by blows or magic. He didn't understand how the guy did it. Turns out he just sewed it up with sewing thread. But the magician could create an infinite number of shadow puppets. He would fill the room with them and destroy them. Zeke imposed paralysis. This frightened the mage. He didn't understand how the guy knew that. His telepathic speech is perfectly disguised. The protagonist gave the advice that if he was going to hide in a doll, he should hide his heartbeat too. I mean, it's so obvious. The antagonist called him an idiot. They tied him to a tree. Zeke wanted to know who it was. Mint was sure he would confess now. She used brainwashing. He was now her humble servant and would answer any questions without any lies. Zeke got creepy. She ordered him to answer why he attacked her brother. The one replied that the king and the prime minister had ordered Zeke to be killed. This shocked the protagonist. As it turned out, they were the ones who kicked him out of the country. The guy thought exile was one thing, but murder. Had he done something wrong? Zeke asked Mint's opinion. The girl thought it was unforgivable and disappeared. At that time, the king wanted to get the girl back somehow. The minister considered the fact that they had done that to Zeke. Rogale thought he had taken his side. Haman denied it, but they would have to make some concessions to get her back. According to the king, all they have to do is show that they are willing to take them back. And then, at the first opportunity, they will hire an assassin and kill him. The minister thought he was thinking negatively, but the ruler didn't think so. Haman thought about the assassin and thought it was a good idea. He just about sent him. Suddenly, Mrs. Mint appeared in front of them. The minister said fearfully that the assassin was already here when they banished Zeke, which the king confirmed. The girl understood everything. According to her, the one they had dispatched had failed despite their best endeavors. They objected, saying it was a mistake. They were worried about her and Zeke. Mint knew they were incorrigible. They would pay for what they had done to her brother. Both of them asked her to stop and started offering her land, money, but that didn't bother her. As a result, the castle was covered with ice. For her brother's sake, she would not take their lives, but if they came after him again, they would be finished. The minister asked if the king liked the new finishes on the castle. He replied, longingly, that he was sick of it all. Zeke enjoyed the bath. Mint returned and looked for him. The boy called out to her. She inquired what it was. The protagonist explained that it was an outdoor bathhouse that he had built as a hobby. Even though he doesn't have as busy a schedule as he used to, he still gets tired. Mint remarked that this water is divine. Zeke didn't know what divine energy meant. At this time, Tiffany got ready to take a bath and plumped into the water with him. She apologized for disturbing him. Princess thought that spending time together with Zeke was so cool. Mint joined them. She introduced herself. The girl heard that she had helped her brother. T had heard of her. She must be her Zeke's sister. She's so excited to meet her. The boy was surprised by this atmosphere. Kai-chan and the queen noticed them. Kai-chan was indignant, for she knew so well that he liked breasts. Sophia decided to keep them company. They were seen by the other boys who also wanted to join. Zeke didn't understand what it all meant. Tiffany thought it was all so great. The guy inquired as to what exactly. Beastmen, humans, and monsters all enjoying a bath together. She wished they could laugh like that with everyone in the world. Zeke agreed with her. Mint knew that wouldn't happen as long as the Demon Lord was around. These creatures are kept under control by her brother, but the Demon Lord's curse has gone nowhere. As long as the Demon Lord exists, there will be no end to conflict. Zeke thought so too. He approached the Demon Lord and suggested that they take a bath together and get to know each other better. Mint was upset since such a thing was impossible, but someone did hear them. The ice still hasn't melted. The servants have all the mages involved, but it's not easy when it comes to magic of such a high level. The minister didn't need any excuses. In any case, he ordered to handle it by the end of the week. They were lucky that there were no casualties, but the nearby facilities were badly damaged. He thought they would have to make a special budget. King continued to curse Zeke. Haman noticed that he had arrived just in time. He has an estimate to repair the castle and its surroundings. The king asked for silence. He's busy. The ruler wanted to give Zeke a good smack because he was getting sick. The minister understood everything but his castle. Rogale thought it was his job, so let him do something about it. He asked not to speak to him until tomorrow, and to prepare 10 ideas to do away with Zeke. The man had his doubts about that. The servants had told him that the owl was too cold to fly, and they had lost contact with all the other stations. All the salamander sentinels went into hibernation at once. The gatekeeper monster is throwing a tantrum because of the cold. The hill in front of the main gate is slippery to climb. A water pipe burst. Haman didn't understand how it had come to this. Zeke was examining his patient. He would see the cold cleared up overnight and come back tomorrow. The babe's mum said goodnight to her. The doctor was thinking of giving her a vaccination, so he asked her to prepare it. The woman thanked him. Zeke cheerfully announced that that would be the end of them today. Tiffany said that they were now having a walk date threesome. This angered Kai-chan, who replied that she was the one on a date with Zeke. The princess thought they'd have fun. Kai-chan thought she was too attached to him and offered to throw her off. The guy asked to stop. He was having fun at his usual pace. Compared to the past, it's so peaceful. T noticed something. She could smell blood over there. Zeke was surprised. In front of them lay a dragon that had been badly hurt. He wasn't dead yet. The dragon didn't realize if it was a human or a friend of the elf. The fellow introduced himself. He didn't know any elves, so maybe not. The creature was surprised to hear his voice. Zeke confirmed it, but he sounded strange. Kai-chan asked what was wrong with him. Tiffany explained that he and the dragon were talking. The dragon is surprised. It's the first time since he was born that he sees someone who can talk to them. Zeke offered to talk about it later. He was deeply wounded. The monster asked if a human can heal a dragon. The protagonist replied that it could. After all, even dragons need first aid in such a situation. The dragon confirmed that he would need time to regenerate. But why does he want to help? Zeke replied that he was a doctor and the dragon was injured. He doesn't need any more reasons. The monster thought for a moment. He asked him to help him. Zeke got ready to begin the treatment. Suddenly he was approached. He was asked what he was doing here. This diamond dragon is the booty of Master Elkus. The doctor asked Tai to collect leaves from the trees as much as possible. The stranger said not to ignore him. The lad replied that if he was just resting here, let him leave and not interfere with his treatment. He got angry. According to him, you can't treat Dragon Slayer Elkus like that. He deserves to die. Elkus was about to fire his bow. The dragon asked Zeke to run. His arrows pierce even his diamond scales. The enemy fired a shot. Zeke caught his arrow. It was hotter than he thought. Elkus was surprised. He asked who the guy was. Zeke introduced himself as a veterinarian, a doctor, and he had already said he would treat him. The enemy got angry. He told him to stop lying to him. There's a veterinarian. He won't see anything through his arrows. The dragon asked to flee. They're all in danger. It had no effect on Zeke. The guy called him so annoying. Zeke asked if he would finally calm down and asked him to be quiet. Elkus replied that he remembered him, his face, his name. Suddenly, he disappeared. The protagonist saw the transference magic again, and it's not such a simple spell. Could it be that someone has access to it? The dragon is sure the opponent is no match for him. The fellow replied that when it comes to some troublemakers, he is quick to deal with them without remorse, and now he was beginning his treatment, so he asked him to lie still. Tiffany inquired as to how the treatment was going. Zeke was just looking at what could be done. But it's hard. He thought once the surface wounds were treated, the dragon's healing abilities would take care of the rest. Even if he used his skills, healing would be extremely slow. That bastard must have put some sorcery in his arrows. The dragon thought that this was very strange. He knew many dragon slayers, but he had never seen anyone trying to heal a dragon. Zeke asked the dragon to be quiet and leave the work to the doctors. The dragon realized that he was trying to heal him with human strength, but it would obviously not be enough. The creature suggested he do something else. Or was he testing him? Zeke replied that he was always honest before his patients, and he apologized, but that's all he can do. What the dragon means to say is that he needs sacred energy. It should be enough to amplify the magic. This is the first time Zeke has heard of sacred energy. The dragon explained that it was powerful magic. He asked if the guy could use his healing magic. The vet thought it was easier said than done. Kai-chan asked if he didn't already possess such magic. Guy explained that his skill was helping patients heal themselves. Healing magic is something else entirely. It reverses providence and brings them back to normal, and he hadn't even mastered what Mint was telling him. The dragon knew that he could heal because he had such a powerful energy bubbling inside him. This was not a coincidence, this was his path, an accumulation of many healings. Zeke wondered how he knew so much. Turns out, by his spirit, and by his hands. Now he saw. Then all his accumulations should be checked. The doctor used magic. The dragon's condition improved markedly. Everyone was surprised. Though not quite perfect, but the wounds had healed. Zeke had really done it. Tiffany noticed that he had obtained the title of Dragon Healer as well as the unique God Hand skill, evolving into a doctor of 100 beasts. T was happy for him. The guy thought that sometimes she acted scary. In any case, he was glad the dragon was okay. The creature thanked him once more for its strength and rescue. Zeke replied that he had just done what he had to do. He didn't have time to finish speaking and passed out. The boy woke up already in bed and realized he had passed out. He didn't know what happened next. He only remembered that the mad elf had escaped and he was treating the diamond dragon. Suddenly Zeke turned his attention to the girl lying next to him. She had also woken up. The girl was glad that he was fine. They were worried when he suddenly lost consciousness. Zeke asked who she was. Mint entered the room and realized that her brother was awake. What was in front of her shocked her. Her sister realized that this country was dangerous for more than just this Tiffany. We'll have to cover them in ice. Zeke is sure she's got it all wrong. He doesn't even know the horny girl. Suddenly the fact that she is horny affects him. He realized that she was Kai-chan. It turned out to be so. The girl laughed at the fact that he had already forgotten her face. The boy pointed a mirror at her. Kai-chan herself did not recognize herself. Queen Sophia entered the room and decided to explain. Kai-chan took on human form as a result of Zeke's evolutionary power. Mint did not understand what it meant. The protagonist remembered that T had talked about something like that. She asked if they all knew about the existence of monster evolution. Mint knew that it was a phenomenon where a monster evolves to a higher level by hunting other strong monsters. But Zeke remembered that Kai-chan didn't consume monsters as food, which she herself confirmed. The queen explained that monsters, like them, consumed energy through food, or rather, they consumed the target's magic power. In other words, when a large amount of magical power is ingested, natural evolution can occur. Mint concluded that it was her brother's magical power that caused evolution. This turned out to be the case. Zeke realized that this was what the dragon was talking about. But why did he have such magical power? Queen Sophia replied that it was because of the contract with Tiffany. By making a contract with a divine beast, he receives divine energy, and yesterday's encounter with the dragon must have strengthened it even more. Mint realized that it was Vetelinari's power. The queen inquired about it. The girl explained that the Vetelinari clan could use the power of the monsters dependent on it as their own. With the power of a god and the power of a dragon, her brother had undergone a kind of existential evolution. Queen Sophia thought it was only natural that she too had undergone a change under his influence. Zeke and Kai-chan had no idea what they were talking about. Mint concluded that he had become the strongest user of healing magic, endowed with the power of a god. Zeke wondered, him and healing magic. Healing magic? It's a miraculous power that heals everything. The guy heals humans, beasts, and magical monsters equally, if this is the power he has gained from his path. Zeke is sure that this is the inevitable result of his encounters with everyone. Then he will use it as he sees fit. The protagonist didn't understand why Kai-chan was laughing quite a bit. As it turned out, she was happy that Zeke's power made her like this. So her body is the ideal for him. She is so happy. Mint thought that she might have taken on a human form, but her brains were still from a lizard, and she wasn't suited to such a vulgar body. More modest and simple. Yes, a body like hers is more suitable. Kai-chan didn't like the fact that she dared to judge the body Zeke gave her. Then she offered to find out in battle. Mint realized that she'd gathered her courage. Zeke asked them to calm down. He didn't like the games they were playing here. The queen thought it was fun. Zeke noticed that T was acting strange. He asked if it was normal. Sophia replied that she was an oracle. They divine beasts have a spiritual connection to the heavens, and her connection is especially strong. Gods must have passed through her. Guy concluded that whatever she was saying about the gods wasn't a metaphor. It's true, they have God in heaven. Zeke isn't sure he understands everything after so much information, but you can live like you used to. She replies that it is. He has to find his own way, and she would be happy to be by his side. This confused Zeke. Sophia thanked him for the respect he had shown her, but she was not a queen now, just Sophia. She asked to be allowed to watch him on his adventures, or she would be in the way. Zeke didn't know what to answer. Tiffany walked into the room. She was glad he was awake and noticed her mother, who the girl thought was also worried about him. Master Elkus remembered the pathetic little man with anger and ordered the troops to be assembled. They will attack the land of those bastards right now. One of the soldiers said that even from the master's point of view, the beastmen were not to blame. The fact that he dared to point it out to him made Elkus angry. He wished for Zeke's death and didn't understand how they dared to insult him. They would destroy them finally and irrevocably. Elkus was going to burn their country to powder. The man standing at the post asked the elves what they were doing here. He surmised that they were going to see the sights of the village. This made the headman laugh. He called them a bunch of losers. It looked like he would destroy the whole country in half a day. The guard didn't realize what he had just done. The fact that he was in one piece surprised Elkus. One of the opponents decided to do it again. Something prevented him from striking and tore him to pieces. The master had not expected such a thing. The warrior turned to him saying that the light had enveloped the village. They could go no further. Elkus realized that it was the magical power of Zeke's bastard. They had fortified the village in anticipation of his arrival. Clever, isn't it? The guard noticed that indeed, Master Zeke was here yesterday for a routine inspection. It turned out that whoever Zeke cured would be blessed with light for a while. The elves realized that they couldn't break through such a shield. One must retreat. But Elkus replied that the Dragon Slayer hero would not just give up. He summoned the demon Baphomet. Now they will cut their way through. He uses the SS-ranked demonic beast to destroy the dam barrier and everything in its path. All of them. Something surprised him. He noticed the automatic revival and interception magics. That's the same class of magic. That bastard is much stronger than he thought. We'll have to go back and come up with a plan. Suddenly, a diamond dragon appeared in front of him and greeted him. Elkus recognized the lizard he hadn't finished off the other day. He realized that the dragon was eager for a fight. The creature concluded that he had correctly understood its intentions after meeting Zeke's power. Good thing they hadn't destroyed him then. The opponent assumed that the dragon had received a favor from that bastard. Both of them decided to make a rematch. Elkus was sure he'd smash him to smithereens. He wanted to use the magic bow. Suddenly he realized that he had no hands. The dragon said that he could no longer hold the bow. He wondered how he would then pierce its scales. The elf laughed. He can also use healing magic. Injuries like this were nothing, but the magic wasn't working. The dragon replied that healing miracles were manifested through divine power. Elkus attacked Zeke, the messenger of the god. Quite naturally, he lost his blessing. His adversary did not understand and asked him to speak plainly. The following shocked him. Elkus was surrounded by huge dragons. The diamond dragon explained that in other words, he had stepped on the god's tail. The elf pleaded with them, but it did not save him. Zeke read that a group of elves on a sightseeing tour had suffered losses due to a mysterious phenomenon. He thought he should ask them to step up their patrols. Tiffany was outraged that Zeke was working again. She thought he needed to rest. The guy replied that he was just reading the bulletins. T thought that was work too. She confiscated them and told them to rest. He was forced to forfeit a week's salary after his secretary criticized him for exercising. But he has been bored to death since day one. Kai-chan never thought she'd hear such words from Zeke's mouth. It's a good thing he has someone to guide him. The guy thought he wished he had a wife like that. Kai-chan read a book that helped guide a man. Tiffany remembered something. They recently found a cave on the border. She suggested they all go and explore it. Dungeon, a general term for a large labyrinth in the underworld. It is the source of the magical element in the atmosphere. It is also a source of magical power. When it is deep underground, it forms a core and thus a dungeon is obtained. The underground can be compared to a living being. It has no ego, but it has a fierce desire to devour people. It creates monsters, traps, evil magic. If left unchecked, they will not stay in the dungeon but invade the outside world. They don't know why they exist. But today, adventurers from around the world are descending deep underground to eliminate the threat that has arisen. One such group fought the subterranean creatures. The girl asked for a situation report. One of them said that everything was fine, except for the uncle who was covering the girl. The man replied that he was a tank, that was his job. The girl thought he shouldn't have set himself up like that. One of the boys apologized to the leader for making a mistake in disarming the trap. She replied that it was not all his fault. The girl thought the whole dungeon had a disgusting atmosphere. It wasn't even half as bad as it could be. A member of the group suggested retreating since the cave was full of S-class monsters. The leader was against it. According to her, it would be disobeying a royal order. They would lose the prime minister's trust and that would be disastrous for their group. The girl ordered to switch roles. She would tank and he would cover the rear guard. The girl asked to be careful because she can feel the magic activating. There was an increased appearance of monsters. The guys realized that they would have to start all over again. The leader decided to proceed. Meanwhile, Zeke, Princess, and Kai-chan descended the bones into the dungeon. The situation seemed dire. He even got a little nervous. The princess thought this place was so much fun and had lots of rides. This must be an amusement park. Kai-chan didn't think the cave was safe. Tiffany replied that you could fall into the lava here and get hit and you'd be fine. Zeke wondered how it all worked. The princess realized that there were monsters here, just like the real ones. Zeke thought it was silly to be afraid of such things. The monster wished the man dead and struck Tiffany with the weapon. This frightened Kai-chan. Zeke was sure that it was an attraction and there was nothing scary. The princess continued to laugh and said he scared her. T noticed that the monster was hurt. The main character surmised that it was some special makeup or something. He's a doctor and can fix that sort of thing in a flash, so asked to be allowed to take a look. Zeke used the treatment. After examining him, he cast a healing spell on his whole body so that the monster would be healed of all other ailments. He noticed more pain in his back. The princess admired him. The monster realized that his name was Zeke. The Minotaur was thankful for waking him up. Now he needed their help. There were many of them trapped here by the curse, something Zeke certainly didn't expect. Uncle sheltered the leader and the girl from the blow. According to him, he's a tank and won't let her get hurt. The girl said he was fine but was already having trouble breathing. And all that blood. The leader remembered that there was a sign to the dungeon core on the other side. The girl thought they should go that way. When the leader asked how much magic they had left to attack, she was told that 20% of Saba's magic, 30% if they used the last of the restorative. The girl said that when she gives the signal, they should fire everything they have at the front line. But if they just shoot at them, they will choose evasive tactics. The leader's orders are to just get rid of them and she will buy time. They should head in the opposite direction and scatter the enemy, and she will rush as fast as she can, and together they would destroy the core. The group member was surprised that she thought this was realistic. A happy ending for everyone. Ridiculous. The leader thought it was her fault for misjudging the complexity of the dungeon, causing them to get into danger. She should take responsibility. The other guy remarked that again she didn't think through the plan with blowing up the wall. If she can get through the dungeon with this strategy, she won't have any problems. The quality of the gunpowder. How strong are the walls? What kind of material are they made of? Did she calculate the impact force of the terrain? In the first place, she doesn't even know the attributes of the core, does she? The leader didn't like the fact that he was picking up on her every mistake. In any case, he thought they could do it. The boys were confident that they would all come back alive. The leader was grateful to them. There was an explosion, which they had already talked about, but it wasn't her. Zeke was surprised that there were so many people here. The adventurers didn't know who he was. The guy introduced himself as just a doctor passing by. They seemed to have suffered a lot. The Minotaur replied that everything was fine. The curse had worked, but the karmic effects. Zeke remarked that it was indeed fine. It didn't seem like much time had passed, and with the power he had now, he made a comeback. The members of the group, as well as the monsters, were healed. The monsters thanked him and said he was worthy to be their master. The boy asked without it, he was too embarrassed. The group thought he was a demon lord. Zeke met with Elizabeth. They completed all the formalities and are now residents of Narogma. He was surprised to learn that they were from the same city. Elizabeth was too. The girl realized that he was a veterinary she had heard a lot about. The guy admitted to being a bit of a celebrity. According to her, there were rumors that he was missing. It was even hard to imagine how much the kingdom had lost with his departure. The protagonist replied that it had been quite a long time ago. As it turned out, they were a group under the direct command of the Prime Minister, so they had received a direct order from the king to go to this dungeon. Zeke concluded that they had been through a lot too. The girl agreed with that, but now they had had enough. They were the main group of the S-class country, the Twilight Dragon. But in fact, they turned out to be the Prime Minister's personal army, and this time they went to such a hellish dungeon without any preparation time. Zeke thought about hell. It was certainly like that on their part, but thanks to the blessing of the gods, they were not harmed. Elizabeth confirmed the fact that it was hell, and here they arrived all so happy. Zeke apologized. It wasn't very nice of them. The girl thought it was a kind of date, but the guy replied that he was just stopping by to see her. He'd be back in the infirmary soon. The monster waiter apologized for being late. Zeke was glad they were doing so well. The monster thought it was thanks to him. Elizabeth agreed with him. Zeke had lifted the curse on every monster in the dungeon. The monster complimented that and hired all of them. It's amazing how deep this country's heart is. Yes, and they should thank Lady Sophia for everything. Elizabeth was ashamed of what she had said in the dungeon. The monster replied that it was nothing, it happens to everyone. Zeke believed that yesterday's enemy was today's friend. It didn't matter what was in the past, what mattered was what was in the present. Elizabeth agreed with him. Humans, beastmen, and even monsters laugh and live together. He created this. It's so wonderful. They decided to move here for that very reason. And Zeke thought it was because of the good food. The girl confirmed this. According to her, the food here is truly great. The leader was called out by the guys. Elizabeth apologized, but she had to go. They were having a dinner party. The main character noticed her scar. He decided to correct it on her cheek the next time he sees her. The girl replied that it was alright, it was an old scar, a memory of people she had met. Her memory, to her, they are akin to a medal. Zeke was surprised that it was a scar that didn't need healing. The boy inquired about the memory. Elizabeth thought he was asking a very sensitive question. It should be embarrassing. He apologized. Turns out she was joking. When they get to know each other better, she will tell him. Then Zeke will make an effort. Kai-chan, eavesdropping on them, noticed that he blurted out again. The great dragon learnt the man's name. The diamond dragon confirmed it. He thought the fellow might be able to help him. The king decided to pay him a visit. Then the diamond dragon offered to prepare the others, but the king thought it was not necessary. The diamond dragon asked him to stop, but the latter told him to be patient a little longer. The king could not believe that the Group S-class Twilight Dragon left the country. The bartender didn't know the details. They said they left for personal reasons. The king was angered that they had sent them on such a noble mission and they dared to leave. He was asked to calm down. The minister asked what this meant. The barman did not know. According to him, they are in the service of the prime minister. Doesn't he know better? The king didn't know what now. The minister only found the resignation letter of a few people, but he didn't know the reason. In any case, the ruler doesn't need a bad reputation because of one group running away from him. He ordered to find a replacement immediately. The bartender concluded that the king didn't understand the situation in the country. Elizabeth and her friends are not the only ones who have left the country. Lately, they have been receiving requests to deal with escaped magical beasts, domesticated beasts running loose, and other nonsense. After all, the government is the one responsible for maintaining such security, and they would like to ask them what the government plans to do. This surprised both of them. The king couldn't believe that Zeke was involved here too. The bartender asked him to stop immediately. If they're going to make noise, let them do it outside. The ruler of Rogale was angered by the fact that he kicked him in the leg. How dare he be so rude? The bartender noticed that it was snowing, which it doesn't snow at this time of year. The minister realized what had overtaken them. The king didn't think there would be anything even more unpleasant. When he saw the dragon, he cried out in terror. The people did not understand what the dragon was doing in the center of the city or what the sentries were doing. The dragon assumed it was a human settlement where a veterinarian was said to be. Finding him is harder than he thought. He is an ice dragon and is looking for a man named Zeke, a famous veterinarian. The bartender thought he was threatening him. The dragon concluded that people could not understand his speech. He thought about what he should do. The king did not understand why they were standing and ordered him to be destroyed. The bartender said to wait. They haven't done anything yet, no need to provoke for nothing. The minister thought it was too late to do anything. He asked who they thought would pay for the city when it was destroyed. The people were outraged. He is the one who collects their taxes. The king realized that they were all useless. A group of warriors came to the call. The bartender knew them. It was a band of mercenary hungry wolves. More specifically, a group of thugs led by the leader Lamob, but the abilities are still there. They have experience defeating the old dragons. To the leader, it sounds like an insult. In any case, he doesn't care what they mumble. The minister asked where the king found them. He replied that he had recruited them himself because Haman had been useless. The minister realized that if he let such scoundrels stay here, the castle would not be safe. And the reward? The ruler replied that it was not his problem. It was his job. He turned to the gentleman who had come at the right time and asked them to get rid of this monster immediately. Lamob ordered him to kneel down. The king did not understand what he meant. The leader said to kneel. When asking someone to do something, he must observe the rules of etiquette. Rogale thought it was nonsense. He is a king and did not understand why he should kneel. In that case, the group decided to leave. He stopped them. The leader asked what the king wanted from them if he couldn't even kneel. Rogale knelt down and asked for help. This made Lamob laugh. A real masterpiece. Amused him. He suggested that the boys go out to kill monsters. The dragon noticed that they were discussing something, but they might have understood his words. The leader hit him and asked if the guys were planning to join. After all, he would kill him alone. The dragon was getting angry. They decided to use all the projectiles they had. The bandits would burn as much bounty out of him as they could. They all landed many blows on the dragon. The king thought they had succeeded. The leader was sure of it too. Just as suddenly, he noticed a barrier. It turned out to be Zeke, which this dragon had heard about from Diamond. But now, Lamob asked not to get in his way. Or is he on the side of the animals? The protagonist replied that he wasn't on anyone's side, he just couldn't leave an injured man alone. The leader thought he was being kind. Zeke smashed his orb of the hardest orichalcone with his bare hands. The guy realized that the ice dragon was in bad shape. They would have to hurry. He cast paralysis on the enemies. Looks like he's getting better at more than just healing magic. T was happy for him. The king and the minister concluded that Zeke had done it. Rogale didn't realize he was that strong. Mint informed her brother that she was ready. The protagonist decided that they would take the ice dragon and transport. The girl told the dragon that they would now teleport her to the Beastman Kingdom, which pleased her. The king shouted to the lad that he had done a great thing by coming to the aid of the country in its hour of need. They would forget the past and consider putting him back in office. He wanted to add something else, but Zeke ignored him. Damn dragon lover. The doctor realized that the egg was stuck inside. She was having trouble giving birth. Quite a dangerous situation. He asked why she had come in such a state. It was quite possible that he would not have had time to fly in. She remained silent. Someone said she must have been worried about him. It was the king. Zeke thought it was the king of the ice dragons. Tiffany greeted the divine dragon king. It had been a long time since he had seen the divine beast princess. Mint recognized the divine dragon king Elrond. She explained that he was the supreme god of all dragons. That's right, he is the great winged Elrond. He is glad that a human child knows him. Zeke didn't understand how such a great king ended up here. According to him, the ice dragoness is his 7th consort. He noticed that she had been acting strange lately, but he didn't know that she was carrying a child. The king asked why she didn't tell him. She remained silent. Mint surmised that she feared all the fighting for the throne, which turned out to be true. The dragoness explained that if she had the baby before the queen, it would cause a scandal, so she decided to go into hiding with the baby. Elrond realized that if she gave birth, it would be his first child. But he's not as adamant as other kings. With all his heart, he will be happy with the arrival of their child. As punishment for leaving him for even a moment, she will savor his love even more than before. Along with the child, of course. She thanked him. Zeke apologized for interrupting their emotional scene, but the situation is quite serious. The king asked if he could save her. The guy replied that he would save her, but he doesn't think natural childbirth is an option right now. In his opinion, the only way is to make an incision. Elrond realized that he thought it was necessary for the man to touch the dragon's body. The doctor replied that yes, if it was in the best interest of the mother and child. The king hesitated. He gave permission, his aura speaking for itself. The king asked to keep his two most favorite dragons. He doesn't need to be told twice. Zeke replied he need not say twice. The doctor prepared for surgery. As a result, he was able to retrieve the egg. Everyone was happy for him. The king worried about the child's safety. Zeke replied that he was fine. He could feel the beat of his living, throbbing wings. The egg began to crack. The baby was about to be born. Elrond said to hold tight and meet him. Even the baby's mother asked him. Mint said not to worry, dragons don't have the habit of imprinting. Then he decided to meet the baby. The baby dragon hatched. The baby kissed him on the nose. Kai-chan was angry, for she had just been born. Tai wanted to be too. They were asked to stop and stay out of his way. Mint learned how babies are made. The king thanked the boy for doing a great job. Zeke thought it was just business as usual. Elrond replied that humility was disrespectful. The open birth of a dragon was beyond the power of any ordinary creature. Superior medical skills, immense magical power, experience in reading kai of different kinds. Only Zeke could do it. The king is grateful to have him here. Now he has to go. The boy asked about his wife and child. Elrond apologized, but he has to leave her with them for a while. He has to thank someone. This surprised Zeke. The king asked for a damage report. The minister replied that there had been several accidents and crop damage due to the cold, probably caused by the dragons. Thanks to Zeke's quick action, such things were not a big problem. The king wondered if it was thanks to Zeke and thought the minister was on the bastard doctor's side. Haman replied that he was simply reporting the facts. The ruler had no idea that Zeke could have lived in such a place. The Dragon King paid them a visit. Rogale was outraged, for these are the king's private chambers. Who gave him permission to enter here? I think the minister had seen him somewhere. The visitor replied that by coincidence, he too is a king. He is Elrond, the Dragon God King, the great winged one who rules over all dragons. They didn't understand what he was doing here. He explained that the ice dragon who had appeared in these lands before was his wife. She wished no harm to anyone, but had been hurt in the attack. He was looking for the culprit and asked if they knew him by chance. Both wondered. The minister replied that he had seen everything. They are hungry wolves. As far as he could remember, a gang with that name had attacked a dragon. The king confirmed his words. He turned to the attacker. The leader admitted that he had done it, but it was the king who had ordered it. He apologized. Rogale, startled, replied that he knew nothing. He did it. The prime minister is behind everything. He had nothing to do with the attack. This angered the minister. Elrond thought for a moment. That is enough. Retribution is coming. They will pay for all crimes against his people. He destroyed the castle. This time the Dragon King will see it as an accident. He'll leave them alone. But next he will use the full power of the dragons to destroy them. He asked to remember that. By this time they were visited by the hero Makan, who had missed the most interesting thing. The king was pleased with him. Shia flew over to Zeke's house. She was happy to see him. The guy asked if she had been a good girl today. She replied that of course she was, but Kai-chan looked at them unhappily. Zeke asked what was wrong. According to her, everything was fine, apart from the fact that even all sorts of little things come to live in Zeke's house. The guy realized that it couldn't be helped. Elrond and the Ice Dragon had asked him to do it, so he agreed. The girl resented it. It's okay not to agree to a favor if you're asked. She had lived with Zeke all her life, and now her sister was back, and this new girl. The dragon corrected her, saying she was Shia. Not the new girl, but Shia. Her name is Shia, the name Zeke gave her. Zeke replied that's right, she got it because of her sky blue scales. He thought that she didn't like it. Shia thanked him. But according to Kai-chan, that wasn't the point. She didn't understand why Zeke had named someone else's child at all. Mint explained that dragons are a species for whom family comes first. The Dragon King was so grateful to his brother that he let him name the baby. Zeke knew there was nothing more to be done. He thought they would get along. The boy heard someone's unfamiliar voice. He asked who was there. Kai-chan was gone. Shia was, too. Illusions. Spatial transference. He asked what he wanted. He was asked not to worry. She just has a question for him. She's Elena. Zeke decided to ask again what she wants. It was hard for her to say. Zeke will just try to help everyone he can, but that's not what she's asking him, is it? It turned out to be humans and monsters, gods, beasts, and dragons. Different species that would never cross paths in normal life, laughing around him and believing in each other. She didn't understand why or how such a thing was possible. Zeke wondered. He wondered the same thing too, but the answer is the same. He just helps those who can help him. Everything else comes to him on its own. Zeke has his path and the power of the gods in his hands, and everyone around him is the result of his step-by-step advancement. The girl asks what for him distinguishes humans from the rest. According to him, it is simple. There is no need to separate them. Humans and beasts, they are all the same. Zeke called out. Kai-chan didn't understand what was wrong with him. He apologized and said he was thinking. Ment drew Zeke's attention to something. The dragons flew over to the guy and asked him to fly with him, saying they were in trouble. West Gate. The patrolmen have not been told when the visitors from the border are due to arrive. We'll have to wait for confirmation. Nakan didn't understand what that meant or who they thought he was. Oh, those bureaucratic hurdles. One has to improvise at times like this. He assumed they didn't know him and introduced himself. The guards thought Makan was the best the Gettysburg Kingdom had to offer. They didn't understand why he was here. One of the warriors shouted that the hero was here and ordered the gates to be opened. Makan kicked it open. The soldier was surprised and asked what he was doing. The guy replied that they hadn't prepared the ground, that's why there was such trouble. He asked not to annoy him further with his incompetent thoughts. The patrolman concluded that he was indeed inadequate. They cannot allow such people into the country. The guy asked not to worry and just let him in. He would take care of the rest. The guard tried to stop him. Makan cut through a great gate made of indestructible stones with guards stationed all around. Such is the strength of a hero. Now he asked to be given his way. The patrolling guards stopped him. They can't let him pass. It's forbidden by statute. This bored the guy. He suggested they play a game, but warned that they had made the first move. He had nothing to blame here. The guards didn't understand what this magic was. Makan turned his attention to their houses there behind. If he fused the entire village, they would probably be more amenable. It frightened them. The guy had accumulated a lot of magic already. He'll be able to blow up not only their hovels, but the whole country. What poor things. Suddenly he was prevented from doing it. To the rescue came Zeke, who realized that the hero Makan was in front of him. Rumors had reached him from the kingdom. Most likely, he had come after him. The guy's magic had disappeared. He assumed it was a distraction or something else. Makan realized that he was Zeke. He had been sent by the king to bring the guy back. He had such a funny way of begging him. He would see. But Makan is glad he came on his own, because there's no desire to find out how nasty it smells in that nest. And he forgot his deodorant at home. Zeke told him to go home. What he just said affected the guy. The protagonist repeated those words. He is no longer a citizen of Geta, he is from Narogma, the land of beasts. And he has no intention of leaving here. Makan admitted that he deeply cared about his words. He gets terribly nervous when Zeke puts him in this position. The hero asked him to be a good adult and listen to him. His warrior reminded him that the king had ordered him to be taken alive. Makan knew that. But what did he mean alive? As long as he is breathing. When his heart beats, if he's able to emit magic, if he just plucks out his eye and returns it that way, that's fine, right? Makan used the holy sword to wish Zeke dead. The main character used paralysis. It was able to stop him. The warrior was scared for him, but he ordered him to shut up. He would move away from him or he would be dead. The guy was surprised. Paralysis is the lowest rank 1 skill after all. Did he pierce his holy sword with such a thing? No, that can't happen, a bluff. Makan thought. Zeke pretended to say a different skill, but activated a more powerful one and called him a conniving bastard. Zeke advised him to just go home if he didn't want to get hurt. Makan assumed he wanted to try, but he considered himself a brave warrior who had received the goddess's blessing. He can block all magic used by ordinary people. As long as his barrier stands, any attribute magic won't work. He will slowly accumulate magic power to destroy Zeke. 130%, 120%, he asked as he counted down to death like that. Makan would carefully gather all the magic so that there would be no trace left of Zeke. Zeke used a different kind of magic. The hero was surprised that after electric shock, now ice and snow magic. And he's smart, but it feels like he didn't hear him well. Makan is now invulnerable. With his magic, Zeke stopped the enemy, then shocked him. The guy asked what he had done. The protagonist made the alchemy of misty ice. It's a divine skill he got from bonding with a dragon. It seems to work better than the skills from the goddess. It was hard for the opponent to believe it. Zeke Vetelinari's skill of using mist and ice alchemy was increased by 32. The guards thought the enemy was dead. Zeke didn't think so. He is one of the strongest heroes in the world. The boy asked the warriors to take him with them and tell him not to come back. Zeke told the queen what had happened. He said he had sent him away. The queen remained silent. Turns out Zeke had done something wrong. Although the news did not reach them, the hero arrived in their country as a messenger. No matter what happened, it's not hard to realize that Gettysburg caused them trouble. Zeke is very sorry. The patrolman interrupted them with the words that the enemies were the first to make their move. Zeke-san was protecting them. If they were to blame, it was only for not fulfilling their mission. They would accept any punishment. This pleased Zeke. Sophia replied that they weren't thinking of punishing anyone, but the king wouldn't back down from it. If a rumor spread that they had kidnapped someone important enough like Zeke, it could, at worst, lead to an all-out war involving the surrounding human nations. Zeke stated that he was here of his own free will. The queen replied that unless he could prove such a thing to the world, it was just words. One of those present turned to Lady Sophia. He suggested that Lord Zeke be given a knighthood. If they show people that Zeke is not just a pawn but an important and valuable citizen of Narogma, they wouldn't be able to touch him so easily. Sophia and the boy liked the idea. Zeke realized that he would become a nobleman. He was already too grateful for the position of head doctor. Tiffany said not at all. They will make him a royal person. Queen Sophia supported her. This shocked the lad. He did receive a knighthood. The people of the country are so frivolous. Not only in the parliament but also in the square, everyone was unanimous. Mint concluded how much they loved her brother. No one likes it when the star of the show leaves the party. Zeke replied that now that the ceremony was over, it was time to enjoy the evening. He suggested a drink. They say you can drink here from the age of 15. Then she decided to take a sip. The taste seemed fine to her. Zeke replied that it was, but the girl was embarrassed by the fact that she was still a child, though she would like to experience many things. The guy was sure that there were probably some things that one shouldn't do. Mint wanted to give an example, but something stopped her. It was Elena again. She turned to Zeke. The guy's sister asked who she was. Zeke didn't know the details, but she probably wasn't the enemy. Elena realized that the girl was one of them too. They would have to listen to her. Today she came to ask a favor. She needs his help, as a veterinarian, to cure her father, the demon lord. People spoke out against the authorities. The minister was shocked at what was happening in the country. He did not understand what the riots were and what was the matter. The guard replied that it was an explosion of discontent. He said an outbreak of plague on government farms had caused food prices to skyrocket. The guards have gone berserk, security is out of control, and lately, public facilities have been abandoned because there aren't enough people to repair the castle. The minister appealed to the king. They must do something about the situation as soon as possible. The king by this time was completely exhausted. The guard was sure that it was all the hero's fault. Hero Makin would never forgive the bastard. He will see to it. We'll make him see through this. The guard explained that he's been like this ever since he came back. The king tried to rein him in, but it didn't help. One of the warriors asked Makin to stop. He is disturbing people. He is a hero and he always told him to behave with restraint. The guy told him to shut up and not tell him what to do. The warrior replied that although the king had gathered them, the purpose of their group was to defeat the demon lord, so he asked them not to forget that. Makin grinned. The guy was surprised that he was the one calling it a group. They were just a bunch of wimps trying to make up the numbers, and without him, the hero, they'd all be dead by now. He was approached by. It turned out that Zeke Vetelinari had been found. The hero was ready to kill him right now. He was informed that he was in the demon lord's castle. The guy remarked that it was about time. They will give them all a bloodbath. Zeke saw the castle for the first time. Elena asked if he was afraid. They came without an escort. The boy didn't think it was a trap. The only thing that worries him is the sudden heroes. That's why Mint and the others stayed behind. He decided to see if she was sure it would go well, bringing a human to the demon's stronghold. The girl replied that it was for her father's sake. Suddenly the princess slumped to the ground. Zeke thought it was a curse. Someone met them with the words that the princess shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't make such vulgar noises in the open. It's not nice. They were met by Jammer. He also asked what made her, their princess, bring some weak human into their chambers. Zeke apologized for his nature and introduced himself. Jammer laughed. Maybe so, but he would have to answer to him. He, Jammer, is stepping in as prime minister in place of the ailing overlord. He doesn't advise doing anything foolish. The minister inquired if the princess was already feeling better. The girl replied that she was fine, more or less. She asked the man to examine her father, and since no one in the castle could cure him, they needed an outside opinion. Jammer was sure of the fact that it wouldn't help. Zeke and the girl silently withdrew. Elena led the boy to her father's chambers. He understood what she meant. Apparently demons aren't entirely loyal either. This Jammer is probably responsible for Elena's curse, and judging from his speeches, he's pretty conservative. If that's the case, so is the demon lord's illness. Zeke saw the same curse, but probably not as strong as Elena's. The girl asked what he thought. Zeke admitted that the condition is terrible. The powerful curse was eating away at his whole body like a spider's web, and if he tried to heal it with the usual method, he would fall apart. This amused Jammer. Zeke realized that they were demons. Their bodies were too different from those of humans, beasts, and monsters, and the flow of magical power was unusual, a completely unknown realm. The minister asked what was wrong. He noticed that Zeke didn't look well. Isn't the human doctor going to treat him? Zeke thought of the power that healed the dragon. He asked if Elena believed him, which she confirmed. The boy had used the hands of a god. The minister, grinning, thought of it as healing magic. Funny, they really are that ignorant. Healing magic that heals everything in the world is extremely poisonous to them demons. What would happen if you applied it to a defenseless demon lord? He couldn't stop laughing. Thanks to Zeke's magic, the demon lord woke up. He didn't realize where he was. The man recognized his daughter. The girl threw herself into her father's arms. This shocked Jammer. She explained that he had slept too long, but Zeke, the human doctor, had healed him. The demon lord realized that it was human. He thanked the human doctor. Zeke considered it his job. Elena asked why. The minister didn't understand it either. He has healing magic. It's extremely poisonous to demons. Zeke honestly admitted that he didn't know for sure, but he had no doubts of success. His divine abilities were developing more and more each time. So perhaps meeting Elena and his wish gave him even more strength. It touched the girl. Jammer thought it was nonsense. No mortal could break that curse. The demon lord realized that he had. No one else would have thought of such a thing. According to Jammer, he had so hoped that the overlord would remain his puppet. There's nothing he can do about it. He will destroy anyone who gets in his way. He may be healthy now, but he can't win in his weakened state. He can't wait for the gastric juices to dissolve them completely. The demon lord realized that the room itself was Jammer's magic. He had thought it through carefully. Elena didn't think this was the time for praise. She didn't know what they should do. Zeke asked her to leave it up to him. The minister continued to laugh. He didn't think that he would have to use a compound magic beast, but it couldn't be helped. Suddenly, Zeke used the Misty Ice Alchemy. He destroyed the monster. Jammer was shocked that a special S-class demonic creature secretly bred to kill a demon lord was destroyed by a human. Zeke caught Elena. He thought it was time for retribution, but Jammer replied that it wasn't yet. He ordered the demon lord's army to kill them. The overlord realized that the whole army was under his control. This frightened Elena. Zeke applied paralysis. The minister immediately used transference magic. The protagonist realized it was the teleportation crystals again. Zeroa, then the elf, and now this. They seem to be purchased in bulk somewhere. The overlord replied that Jammer made them. He also gave them away. Zeke concluded that he was behind everything. But the overlord is surprised that the human doctor managed to destroy their army. The guy himself is surprised that the demon lord, a sworn enemy of humanity, can talk so calmly. Elena didn't know what people thought of him, but her father had always been an excellent ruler and parent. The lord thought, no wonder he is notorious. Both of them remembered the demon lord's curse. Zeke confirmed that all the monsters of the world are cursed. They fall into madness and attack humans. The lord agreed and explained that such things happen through no fault of his own. He asked to see. On his body was the crest of a demon. It turned out to be the founder's curse. The lord explained that it was left by Belial, the first demon lord, the founder of the demon race. The emblem of the demon appears on each successive demon king and will never disappear. As long as it exists, their kind and the demonic beasts will be under its influence. This curse reinforces the power of the overlord. Conversely, it merely embodies the ideals conceived by Belial. Therefore, no matter how many hundreds or thousands of years pass, demons will be merely an enemy of mankind. Elena continued that not all demons were waiting for useless conflicts, and her father was trying to find a way to coexist. The overlord explained that this is where Jammer took advantage of him. Zeke asked about the curse. If they were okay with it, he asked to be allowed to help break it. The man decided to see if he thought he could break the curse that had bound successive demon kings for generations. Zeke realized there were no guarantees, but his power has been given to him to help those who suffer. He cannot abandon them in their distress. The demon lord noticed a willful look in his eyes. He decided to trust him and asked him to break this chain of curses. He is willing to trade even his life so that the next generation won't have to bear this curse. The man knelt before him. Zeke realized that he was a god, the original demon lord. Which one of them is stronger? The guy is talking about things beyond his grasp, but somehow the key to everything was in his hands. It was Zeke's power reacting to the sign of the curse. Then he could heal everyone, even demon lords and gods. The man realized that it was Zeke's magic running through the entire castle, the whole world. Tiffany learned that Zeke Vetelinari had been given the title of savior by the Demon King. Evolution of Existence Dr. Salvation. Queen Sophia realized that he was unharmed. The primal curse had been lifted. The demon lord didn't even realize that the curse didn't just affect him, but the entire castle. Therefore, it could not be lifted so easily. Elena is impressed that Master Zeke knows about this. The boy replied that it was all the gods. The lord remarked that even a power like modesty was meaningless without proper application. He was glad it was the lad. Thanks to Zeke, the demon nation could take the next step. The princess agreed with him and thanked the guy. She was so glad she had brought him here. The doctor remembered something. He asked Elena to close her eyes for a second. As it turned out, the guy had forgotten to lift the curse on her. But it should be all right now. The girl stammered. Her father noticed that she had a strange expression on her face. The princess asked him not to tease her. Zeke didn't know what they were talking about. Someone menacingly ordered the demon lord to come out. The boy recognized that voice. The hero Macken was going to destroy everyone. Macken noticed that he had made new friends. The kid is even dumber than Zeke thought. Makin doesn't learn anything. Elena acknowledged that they were so careless. They only removed the lock's security mechanism to invite Zeke inside. The protagonist replied that everything was fine. Zeke assumed that the enemy was here to defeat the Demon Lord. He told him not to worry. Zeke broke the curse that was causing monsters and demons to go crazy. There was no need to fight anymore. It was a surprise to the enemy. The protagonist asked if he couldn't see. The Demon Lord wasn't going to let the demons run amok, he just wanted them to live in peace. Turns out Makin doesn't care if he's good or bad. He's a hero, and he doesn't need another reason to kill a Demon Lord. The three remained silent. The opponent added that Zeke was too. He will pay for the crimes that brought him so much shame. He would not forgive him even after 100 days of torture. Zeke realized that nothing could be done. He applied paralysis. In response, one of the enemy warriors applied an ecliptic barrier. The other used the palm of the heavenly demon. The ground beneath them collapsed. Zeke concluded that as expected of heroes, they were different from the rest. Makin left. At his words, Zeke had taken him by surprise last time, but now he wouldn't give him a chance. He ordered to destroy them and make them pay. The members of his group used spells. The invocation of a demigod was also used. 10 spells of destruction were performed. The Demon Lord noticed the honed strength and coordination. Zeke didn't consider it a problem. Suddenly, he recognized this power. Makin had already rejoiced that he was destroyed, but a member of the group replied that he was alive. Zeke remained unharmed. The hero noticed something in his hand. The enemy didn't understand why he had it. It was a holy sword. Zeke himself didn't understand how it was. According to the Lord, the sword is imbued with the hero's power and needs it. He could vouch for what he said. Makin didn't care if it was a bug or a hoax, it didn't matter. They don't need two heroes in this world. One of his group realized that there was only one hero. Makin thought those were the right words to say. He is the one and only. The next thing surprised him. A warrior knelt in front of Zeke. His name is Thane. He put his life in his hands. The boy didn't realize what nonsense he was talking about. He asked not to work for this clown. Makin is the only one he should follow. The warrior asked him if he could summon the holy sword. The boy thought that of course he could. He's a brave man. But he failed. Tan recognized that Makin was no longer a hero. Perhaps even the goddess had abandoned him. The king didn't understand why he had to lie like this. The guard asked him to be patient until the crowd left the castle. Rogale thought they were fools who had forgotten their duty to him, their king, and were treating him this way. It turned out that the popular demonstration turned into a riot and the king was forced to flee the castle. He inquired where the prime minister had gone. The guard had not seen him, probably dealing with the riot. The king continued to express his displeasure. Suddenly, a portal appeared near them. The guard realized it was a teleportation spell and told them to take care. Both of them dodged the portal. Zeke said to be careful. The Demon Lord apologized. Apparently he had miscalculated the coordinates. The king recognized Zeke. He asked what the guy was doing here and what he wanted. Rogale was sure it was all about him. And what are those guys doing with him? Thane asked, letting him explain everything. He wanted the king to listen to him. According to him, Zeke Vetelinari took the title of hero from the hands of Makin. He confronted the Demon Lord and managed to change his mind. This shocked the ruler. The Demon Lord confirmed that it was him. Thanks to Zeke's power, he no longer has any reason to go to war with humans. On behalf of all demons, he apologizes for all his past deeds. The king remarked that he was a surprisingly quiet guy, even for a Demon Lord. Rogale called Zeke a true man of action. Not only defeated the Demon Lord, but took him alive. Zeke wanted to talk concerning the demons. The king ordered the guard to prepare for a public execution. This surprised Zeke. The ruler explained that as soon as he could convince the people, he was sure that he would go down in history as the king who brought peace to the world. Zeke asked what he meant. The king asked not to worry, the honor of executioner would go to Zeke. The boy resented it. After all, the Demon Lord is not bad. He was driven by a curse, and he broke it. Neither the Demon Lord nor the monsters would ever attack humans again. The Overlord thought that everything was fine. Lifting the curse in no way cancels the previous events. It's a small payment at the cost of one life. The king agreed with him and thanked him for his understanding. Rogale was already thinking about how after the payment, they would hunt down the rest of the monsters. And when they grow up, eradicating them would be easy. How about building a stadium where they could enjoy hunting monsters? That would be a great outlet for the people. Zeke stopped him. The king asked why he was raising his voice at him. Zeke pulled out the hero's holy sword, which the ruler immediately recognized. According to him, it shone as brightly as his greatness. With magic, the lad tore the king's clothes. Rogale did not realize what he was doing. Zeke announced that he had made his decision. He is going to build a country for everyone where monsters too can live in safety. The king thought he had lost his mind. But Zeke had made up his mind, and it was simple. He thought monsters could live in peace like humans and animals. But the thing is, most of them did a lot of harm to humans. Some even died, so he understands his outrage. So they need to build a country where all the discriminated can live in peace, and gradually make everyone realize that they are no different from anyone else. Rogale called this nonsense. He didn't think Zeke could do it alone. But the guy replied that he was not alone. Zeke's many dragons soared above them. Both Queen Sophia and the Dragon King Elrond, all of them would help him. Divine Beast Queen, Divine Dragon King, and Demon Lord. It seems that even now he has many allies, but there will only be more allies from here on. Rogale thought that Zeke wanted to conquer the world, and assumed that he was planning to become a Demon Lord. The guy wasn't interested in such a thing, but he's willing to take on that role if need be. The Demon Lord replied that if he was going to become a lord, it would be easier for him. He's sure Zeke will make his title less intimidating to humans. Tiffany announced that Zeke Vetelinari was getting the title of Demon Lord, the evolution of existence into savior. She had had a premonition ever since she met him in the woods that this was going to happen. Zeke has taken the path he believes in, and she will always stand by his side and help. Kai-chan was indignant at the thought that she felt like his wife. She was the one next to Zeke. Mid thought they were both wrong. Of course her brother loves her the most. Kai-chan was sure that the two of them weren't even close to her. The former Demon Lord asked Zeke to take care of Elena as well. The boy agreed. Sophia asked if Rogale now realizes the situation he is in. He can only observe from the sidelines. The king asked if they thought people would follow their bunch of unknowing. He figured that then they, the people, would unite against them. It turned out that they had already reported this to the neighboring countries. They had seen the exploits of their dragons and promised to cooperate. Sophia felt sorry that they could not get him to cooperate. The Dragon King bid him farewell. Rogale asked the guard what he should do. He did not know. The king was approached. The ruler inquired what he wanted. Another guard had information. It turned out that the townspeople who had seized the castle had demanded the abolition of the monarchy. The parliament had agreed, and a revolution had taken place. The kingdom was all but destroyed. The king didn't know what he was talking about. The guard apologized. He had a family and could not accompany Rogale any further. The other guard left with him. The ruler asked not to leave him. The king was left with nothing. Rogale saw the minister in the sky and asked since when did he fly? Is this some kind of a joke? Someone thought he would be more useful than him. The king did not realize what he was doing. An alarming shadow approaching from the sky. Zeke Vetelinari. Tiffany was diligently writing at her desk. She exclaimed happily that her homework was finished. The girl was going to visit Zeke. The queen turned to her. Sophia reminded her to behave. After Zeke announced the founding of his country, he immediately put it into action. The divine power in Zeke's hands changed the Demon Lord's lands. The formerly barren deserts began to reshape and bloom. New buildings appeared there and many resources were discovered. Reclaimed monsters, demonic beasts from all over the world, and those who shared Zeke's aspirations also gathered from all over the land. In the blink of an eye, his castle had become one of the continent's leading cities. T admired Zeke. Vetelinari Castle. Tiffany flew into the castle, hoping to meet him. No one was here. She was recognized by Dorothy, who realized that she had come to visit them again. The princess asked how they were doing. The girl replied that everything was fine. Zeke and the others were very kind to her. She remembered that he had left again, leaving her to do a job for the Demon Lord. Tiffany was surprised that it had happened again. But she was sure that Zeke wasn't just being idle and lazy. A farm in the suburbs. Zeke was using an appraisal. He concluded from the evaluation that the cow had no problems. Good health. This pleased the farmer. He was a little worried about the change of scenery, but it seems that his fears were unfounded. The man immediately addressed him as Mr. Zeke, and afterwards corrected himself by calling him Demon Lord. Zeke didn't consider himself a lord or a hero, although people say so. He's just a veterinarian. The farmer laughed and accepted his decision. The doctor was approached by a girl. She offered to taste their milk. The boy happily drank it. He liked the taste. He noticed that it was generously flavored with love. The girl was glad of it. Zeke thanked her. She replied that they had done their best. Zeke was found by the girls. The farmer congratulated the Demon Lord for coming home. Kai-chan scolded Zeke. According to her, he can't do that. You can't just skip work. And if he's going to skip out, let him do it properly. Even so, he's working too hard. The guy didn't realize whether she was scolding him or praising him. Come to think of it, he hadn't seen her in this guise in a long time. Kai-chan replied that she was his legs. Whatever form she took, it would always be the same. Zeke was grateful to her. Tiffany wondered what Mint wasn't happy about. The protagonist didn't understand her reasons for resentment. She even works as the head of the library. It turned out that the girl had hoped that they would spend more time together since they work in the same castle. But he is constantly busy with fieldwork and leaves the paperwork to her. She decided to ask for a transfer. Zeke stopped her. Mint's work is important for the children who will be the future of their country. He's counting on her. All of them. Those words made her think. The girl noticed that everything is right. For the children and her brother's future, she would do everything in her power. The boy repeated that for the future of their country. It was almost noon. Zeke decided that they would all have lunch together when they got back to the castle. The girls liked the idea. They decided to take Shia with them. The deepest part of the demon realm. Jammer greeted Mr. Rouge and thanked him for saving him. In front of him, the demon Lord Rouge sat on a throne. Jammer acknowledged that without his help, he would have been overrun by the forces of that god. The overlord remained silent. This confused the rescued man. Rouge decided to draw his attention to something. The man recognized the synthetic magical beast he had acquired the other day. Rouge fed it to see if it was hungry, but it wouldn't eat. Could there be something wrong with him? He had never had a pet before. Jammer asked what he fed him. As it turned out, a human carcass. The man remarked that although he had become one, he was still a former human. He offered to give him something else, such as animal flesh. The Lord understood him. He tore off his arm. Jammer did not understand what he was doing. Rouge replied that he was just following the rules. They say to get power you have to eat the one who has it. The Lord asked what it was. The power of the god who lifted the curse of the founder. He never thought his father and Elena would be bound by something like that. When questioned by Jammer, he replied that he was going to bed and asked to be woken up later. Jammer did not understand how on earth they would deal with the god's power. Rouge was not interested. He was filled with anger. The man planned to deal with the god's power first, and then with this boy Zeke. He was going to kill him. They, the demon lord's newborn army, would kill him. The backyard of Vitalinari Castle. The food looked appetizing. Someone wondered if Mint had cooked it all. It turned out that she did. This is the kind of lunch she makes for her brother every day. Usually only he is allowed to eat it, but Zeke interrupted her with the words that he invites someone over to eat every day. Tiffany wished she could do the same. Kai-chan didn't understand what the big deal was with a packed lunch. She could do that too if she wanted to. Mint reminded her of the incident when she tried to feed her brother dead mice. This made Kai-chan angry. Zeke tried to calm them down by saying that each species has its own preferences. After all, Shia likes rats. She asked if her boyfriend liked them. Kai-chan decided that she would also study and cook a delicious lunch. Tiffany was looking forward to it. Mint decided to talk about studying. Elena seemed to frequent the library and was very enthusiastic about reading something. Tiffany wanted to clarify that she was, after all, a princess of the demon people and also lived in their kingdom. Zeke replied that yes, along with her father. He had managed to rid them of the cursed founder. If she was interested in something and started to learn, it was already good. Mint seemed to be puzzled about something. That interested Zeke. He saw her sitting in a tree reading a book and decided to join her. By his sudden appearance he startled the girl. The boy was able to pick her up and apologized. Elena asked how he knew she was here. Zeke suggested by the power of a god. He could tell who, where, and what was doing what within a 500-meter or so radius. The girl assumed he did. The boy noticed that she was reading a medical textbook. He heard that she was studying hard. According to Elena, the reason is that she can't do anything, neither sorcery nor fighting. He asked her to sit down and was going to listen if she wanted to. The princess thanked him. As he knows, she was born the daughter of a demon lord. But she had no talents. Even those who had watched her since she was a child left her one by one. And then she was left alone. Zeke could see that they weren't even hiding smirks. The boy realized that she couldn't say that to an outsider. That's horrible. The girl replied, unsurprisingly. She doesn't have the ability or anything else to lead a tribe of demons. At first, she thought she could handle her father's illness on her own. If she could solve the problem, everyone would pay attention to her again. She even thought she had a good chance. But as he knows, the result did not live up to expectations. Her condition continued to deteriorate, and Jammer, who harbored a disgust for her, grew so strong that he was able to strip her of her command of the Demon King's army. In the end, she became an ornamental princess. If only she had political talent like her father and brother, if only she had medical knowledge like Zeke. She is so frustrated by her uselessness. Guy believed that not everyone had the talent to lead a country. He wouldn't have been able to handle such a curse without the help of a god, but there's nothing to be done. No need to feel sorry for yourself. Elena agreed with him and thanked him for talking. She apologized for distracting him. The princess is glad he listened to her, and she really did feel better after arriving here. Zeke suddenly declared that politics was not his area of expertise, but he can help her with medical knowledge. He decided he would make her his apprentice. Zeke decided to start training Elena. Kai-chan wondered what all the fuss was about. Tiffany explained that Zeke had taken Elena on as an apprentice. Kai-chan didn't understand apprenticeship of what. She didn't stop surprising Mint. Her brother is a veterinarian, isn't he? The princess's training began. Kai-chan didn't think she looked like a veterinarian. Mint was sure he could teach her all sorts of useful things. Zeke was going to start with the basics. The first was rock climbing. Mint told her brother that he makes a bad teacher. The guy replied that he could certainly teach her something right off the profile, but he decided to start with the practical stuff. He demonstrated his rock climbing skill. Zeke handed Elena a Hina snowdrop. This is a flower that only grows on cliffs above 800 meters. They can be used to get rid of worms. Sometimes the monsters he has to treat can get that high. If you're a veterinarian, you should be able to get various ingredients. Elena decided then to get some too. The guy stopped her. He forbade the use of magic. Magical interference might change the herbs and make the beast wary. She must climb up with her own hands. An attempt to do so was unsuccessful. Zeke announced that the next training session would be on the beach. He asked if she could see that islet, assuming there was a wounded unicorn lying there. The boy inquired about her actions. Elena thought that if magic was forbidden, in that case she would swim. Zeke asked Kai-chan to swim. The girl realized that he wanted her to be an example. Kai-chan agreed. She is a good swimmer, if anyone doesn't know. The girl went into the water. She was interrupted by the creatures in the body of water. She didn't understand what was wrong with them. She has no time for them. Zeke pointed out to Elena that the lake was inhabited by kelpies and it was dangerous to swim in it. Kai-chan confirmed this. The girl was indignant, for he knew this would be the case, but he asked her anyway. Zeke thought she would calmly go into the water instead of jumping in. She admitted that it was not very pleasant. Elena apologized to her. Kelpies have been too naughty lately. She thought she was a terrible princess who couldn't even handle her own subjects. Kai-chan replied that it was okay, it was Zeke's fault. She surmised that he did it to see her wet. This pleased her. According to her, if Zeke wanted it that way, she would show him herself. Mint suggested leaving the lizard alone before she blabbed something else. Kai-chan thought she was jealous of her adult charms. Mint said not to worry, she would use her rich intelligence to entice her brother. The girls hit it off. The guy thought that the two of them were really getting along well. He decided to get down to business. He asked what Elena would do in such a situation. The girl thought about it, since magic doesn't work and swimming doesn't help. Tiffany thought it sounded like a riddle. Zeke laughed and agreed with her. He decided to voice the correct answer. It's walking. The situation really isn't easy, so just walking on the water is enough. Kai-chan didn't understand how he was going to walk without magic. The guy explained that you put your foot on the water first. Before it goes to the bottom, you put the other one in front of it. And repeats. Kai-chan thought herself a fool for asking. Mint was sure that her brother would make a very bad teacher. Zeke asked why not. Kai-chan replied because it was the only way he knew how. Elena decided to give it a try. Mint asked not to take her brother's words seriously. Elena realized that this was her challenge. She succeeded in doing it, which she was happy about. The girls were surprised. Tiffany thought it was Zeke who had taught her. Mint didn't think so. She noticed the heads of the kelpies. They were happy for the princess. Elena realized that they were helping her. The kelpies promised to do anything for her and are happy that she is happy. They are having fun. Zeke concluded that the monsters didn't hate her as much as they hated the princess. According to the creatures, there was a fog in their minds and now it was gone. They continued to be happy for her. Zeke explained that clouding was an original curse. Perhaps it had always been that way, or perhaps it was because of Jammer. It was most likely for the same reason she was ostracized at the castle. Now that everyone was free from the curse, she would be able to build relationships with them. The girl agreed with him. The kelpies were happy to meet her, as Elena was happy to meet them. Zeke cheerfully declared that there was no need to restrain his magic now. Surely she would find a better approach to them than he. One of the creatures asked for the doctor's autograph. This was no problem for him. The boy asked what their names were. The monsters replied that they were kelpies. The princess explained that kelpies are not in the habit of giving themselves individual names. Mint complimented that it was not common for magical beasts, in general, to have individual names. Then he will name them himself. Baby Kelpie, Beauty Kelpie, and Kelpina. Kai-chan thought that somehow this was too much. Mint recognized that even her brother had weaknesses, but Kai-chan liked her name. Tiffany thought it was easy for little ones to remember. Zeke didn't like the fact that all they could do was criticize. Suddenly the kelpies were different. They thanked Master Zeke. They, called him, underwent an existential evolution. For the sake of the Lord and the princess, they pledged to be even more useful to them. Mint was surprised that these same guys had evolved into such divine figures. Tiffany marveled at this. She had never thought that something like this could happen just because Zeke had given them a name. Mint walked over to Kai-chan, whom he had also named. His sister realized that no matter what kind of power a brother had, it all depended on the source material. Kai-chan thought she was still trying to pull a fast one on her. Tiffany remembered that Zeke had called someone else. He had been called. As it turned out, Shia had jumped him. The Dragon Lord confirmed it. The boy asked what he was doing here. Elrond decided that it was already time. Mint realized that it was time for Shia to evolve. Zeke realized it too, he had called her after all. But would she be able to evolve as easily? The king explained that they dragons have stronger magic vessels than most, and even their smallest wings are more developed than the most powerful magical beasts. Zeke recognized that she was a small and beautiful dragoness, but now she had already turned into an equally beautiful girl. He looked forward to working with her further. She agreed with him. Kai-chan asked if she should say hello to her elders first if she wanted to join his entourage. Mint advised her to stay away from him. She may have been a baby dragon before, but she no longer intended to ignore her. The girl became scared. The boy didn't understand what was wrong with the guys. Elrond left. He thought that many people felt pressured around him. Zeke concluded that the king had come to observe Shia's evolution. It turns out he's leaving her to him. The ruler explained that they were not withdrawing their care for her, but she needed stimulation to grow. Elena was happy for her. Shia snuggled up to her with words that she liked her. Elrond noticed that she had befriended the demon princess. That was the kind of thing Shia couldn't get if she wasn't around Zeke. He asked if the boy had ever heard of Onigashima. Zeke had never heard. The king told him that it was a picturesque little island in the southern seas, and the land there is full of magic that Shia can bathe in. The boy wondered if Mint knew anything about it. According to her, this island is known for tourism and pilgrimages to so-called places of power, but lately there have been strange rumors that it has become unsafe there. Elrond asked not to worry, he had recently seen it with his own eyes and it was still as quiet and beautiful as ever. Mint apologized. It was not her place to argue with first-hand information. The king felt that they could go on their own. He thought Shia would like it there. Mint assumed that her exhausted brother would too. She was sure he would feel much better if they scattered a little. Tiffany was excited for them all to go traveling together. She was already looking forward to it. Elena wished them to have fun. Tiffany was surprised that she wasn't going with them. The princess asked if they were sure she could too. T replied that of course, they were friends after all. She suggested having fun together. This surprised Elena. Zeke agreed with her. Besides, he hadn't finished her training yet, so they would continue training in Onigashima. The girl agreed. Kai-chan and Mint stated that she was not allowed to slip away from their gaze. They would look after each other in the bathroom and before going to bed. Zeke did not like this. The king concluded that it was settled. The protagonist assumed if it was about an island in the South Sea, then they needed a boat or something. It turned out that the king asked his friends to provide them with a means of transport. Zeke thanked him. Elrond said to have fun and take care of Shia. They packed for the journey. At the castle, he reported back the way things were. She flew with Zeke and the others to Onigashima. This excited the queen. Elrond asked what was. The servant told him that this island was now a high danger zone where a new kind of magical beast had been confirmed. And he had heard that there was civil unrest there now, so the island was not a good place for sightseeing. The king had heard similar things from the boys. He asked not to worry. Elrond has seen the island, there is definitely no unrest there. Sophia asked when exactly he had last seen it. It turned out to be 500 years ago. The man asked if he wasn't right, considering he was a dragon. The king was about to be served roast lamb and flounder munier. The servant remarked that he was a gourmet, and why exactly is he doing this? The man was shocked to see a furious king who continued to hate Zeke. Zeke saw the ground. They realized that this was what Onigashima was. He thanked the dragon for bringing them here. The creature replied that no problem, however. He senses resentment all over the island. The dragon asked to beware. This surprised Zeke. Mint realized that he was right. This place doesn't have the atmosphere of a holiday island as the Dragon King said. The girls smelled a strange odor. Tiffany noticed a silhouette ahead. Elena thought it was an islander. T turned to him. Upon examining him, the girls were horrified. He pounced on them. Zeke gave him paralysis. The boys were fine. The boy examined the island dweller. Tiffany thought it was a monster. Elena had never seen one, at least not in their army. Mint assumed it was an endemic of the island. An endemic is any group of organisms living in a very limited area. Zeke showed her something and asked her to tell him what it was. Kai-chan remarked that she understood what it was about. Mint replied that it was an enlarged image of his blood. It turned out to be. Zeke is just trying to figure out why it looks like that. You can clearly see the swelling here, symptoms of the disease. Tiffany thought the monster was sick. The guy corrected her by saying it wasn't a monster, but a human. This surprised the princess. Zeke used purification. As a result, he was healed. The islander didn't realize what it was. Zeke was glad that everything was fine now. T said hello to him. The stranger apologized for the trouble he had caused them. His name is Shizuo. He is a member of the Oni clan living here on Onigashima. Tiffany was pleased to meet him. Elena is so happy that he has recovered from his illness. Shizuo was surprised. It seemed to him that there was a curse on them. Zeke replied that it was caused by a virus, yes, but he was able to cure it. The resident could not express to them the extent of his gratitude. Mint remarked that he said they had a curse on them. Does it appear that others have the same symptoms? Turns out they did. He wasn't the only one affected. It's the curse. No, the disease. Their island is on the brink of destruction. As they probably know, Onigashima was known as a peaceful island. They had a traditional policy of neutrality, so they did not intervene in wars and lived in peace. Until that day, 3 months ago. That interested the girls. According to him, evil appeared. A lump of flesh. That was what they called the horrible creature the old man controlled. The miasmas it emitted into the air quickly engulfed the entire island. It turns all those who inhale its miasmas into veritable zombies. Mint realized that it was the islanders who were breathing the noxious air that enveloped the entire space. Shizuo confirmed that 90% of them were just like him. Zeke concluded that it was these miasmas that covered the island when they saw it from the sky. Kai-chan was frightened. She realized that they were breathing them now too. The girl thought she would rot like those demons. Would her breasts fall off too? If Zeke is going to get into this trouble, let him kill her so she doesn't become like this. The guy asked her to calm down. Shizuo didn't understand why they were all so calm. If they breathed miasmas, their bodies would soon start to rot. Zeke surmised that it was the influence of his divine power. It acts as an antibody, keeping everyone safe from the virus like a vaccine. This shocked the resident, who realized it was a divine blessing. He knelt down and called Zeke truly a messenger of heaven bringing salvation. Shizuo asked him to save their island. Zeke was willing to do so. Mint was upset. They were so looking forward to the holidays. It looked like her brother wouldn't get a holiday. Zeke explained that they were asked to help. They'll get this resolved quickly and go on holiday. The resident never ceased to be amazed. They were greeted by Sakura, the current host of Onigashima. Shizuo explained that the man had helped him. Zeke introduced himself. Sakura recognized the famous demon lord in white. Rumors about him had spread all over the island. Tiffany thought it sounded cool. The guy didn't think he had a nickname like that. The rescued so-and-so knew he wasn't so simple. He apologized if he might have been rude to him in any way. Zeke thought it was fine. Shizuo wouldn't be able to do anything in that state. The guy complimented that he had told him about the situation on the island and the castle was a safe zone, which turned out to be true. This gem from the island keeps the miasmas at bay. Just one step outside the gates and it won't save. Zeke realized that things were even worse than he had imagined. There were horrible scenes here for Shi's training. Shizuo is glad that he was able to bring them to safety. The ruler didn't even know he was safe and was worried about him. As it turned out, Shizuo was ashamed to admit that he was among the herd. He was nursed back to health by Mr. Zik, who happened to be passing by. This surprised her. She realized that there was a cure. Zeke replied that it is a little difficult to explain everything in detail, but it is like an epidemic. He could cure it. The servants were shocked that he could reverse the disease. Tiffany agreed that Zeke is great. The guy isn't quite sure. The main thing is that he is able to cure everyone. According to Shizuo, he was actually a zombie, but he was healed, so he can vouch. Sakura found that hard to believe. The servants remarked that the mistress was right. The siege had been worth it. Mint asked what they meant. They hadn't fought in 3 months. Mistress had ordered them not to kill the zombies. Mint realized that they had been under siege the whole time. The ruler explained that they were either dead or had lost their free will. They had no way of realizing this. The man asked the ruler to tell them. They might be the only ones who could help them. The girls noticed that she was so kind. Sakura admitted that she was quite naive. It's not a solution, it's just silly to put off solving problems. It's unseemly for a politician not to know what to keep and what to discard. There is no excuse for what she is accused of. Zeke thought this was a good thing. He didn't see anything wrong with her. She's so kind, that's why they went after her, right. Now that he's here, they can relax. He'll heal them all.